don't know if I'm recording or not, but I just had something to say, and I doubt anybody will ever see this video. But, I look at all the work that Judicial Watch has done, and it reminds me of somebody that left a spigot on upstairs and somebody downstairs with a mop in their hand, just constantly mopping and mopping and mopping, and never quite completely cleaning up the mess because they didn't go up and turn off the spigot. That spigot, to me, is the CFR, Council on Foreign Regime Change, as Tulsi Gabbard would like to put it, or Council on Foreign Relations. It's been around for years, and it was backed up by billionaires before all these new phase billionaires came into existence. We're talking about the old generation of billionaires. You got the new generation, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg. But the old ones, this was their institution. This was their institution for, I like to call, psychopathy or psychopaths meeting and congregating into a think tank. We wonder how they took over both parties. Well, you get a think tank put together and say, how can we change and direct America the way we want to? Well, we got to infiltrate both parties. Well, they did with Bushes and the Clintons and others down the line. I think Jimmy Carter was trilateral. Every once in a while you get one that isn't part of any of it, and then they get assassinated or shot or whatnot. The Council on Foreign Regime Change, or the Council on Foreign Relations, whichever you'd like to call them, that's what they've been. They've been in charge of murdering, killing, atrocities, war crimes for well over 100 years. Your sycophants, which support psychopathic behavior, they're enablers. That's a key word. A sycophant is an enabler to a psychopath. This enabler allows them through channels such as mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC. These are your sycophants. These are your enablers. They are your liars. They want the biggest breadcrumbs off the table, and that's what they're doing. To lie to such the degrees that we have been lied to. And I'm not a Trump fan. By God, no, I'm not a Trump fan. I guess if you want to know, I'm somewhat of a Ron Paul guy, but he was calling for a peaceful revolution. And I don't quite think that psychopaths are going to give up control peacefully. I just don't see that happening. So I think that Ron, as well intended as he was, and he did wake up a lot of people, I think he had a wrong direction. You have to be more aggressive. You have to go after the psychopaths, and which is a difficult thing. In this country, 3 to 5%, I think, or some at the higher end, a more liberal judgment on it would be 8%. 3% of a population, even conservatively 3% of our population being psychopathic, is 9 million people plus that are basically void of all compassion, and they live amongst us with mimicked, basically learned emotions. There's nothing authentic to them. With these fake emotions that they have, they become manipulative. They have a desire to move to the top. Your top 5 professions of a psychopath: CEOs of corporations, cold-hearted. Let me see. I think preachers and pastors were in there, which kind of threw me at first, but then you think of the pedophilia that runs rampant throughout the Catholic Church. You go all the way back to the beginning of the Catholic Church in the Crusades, where they burned people at the stakes. That's pretty psychopathic. Then you go to Peter Popoff or Olstein. Yeah, during a hurricane, he was leaving people outside of his great big church concubine. So yeah, I would say the head of churches are psychopaths. They really don't care. Uh, I think law enforcement was up there high as far as being a psychopath, but I don't know if that would be more that they're psychopathic or that they just shouldn't be doing that job because they don't have the right mentality and they've basically bent around the corner. You can't become psychopathic. A psychopathic is basically associated with the amygdala. Well, it has not been 100% fully recognized as being with the amygdala, but a common ground with a lot of psychopaths is a part of their brain called the amygdala, which receives stimuli from the cerebral cortex and transmits it into fight or flight or whatever. It creates epinephrine or norepinephrine. The amygdala in a psychopath is very much smaller than what it is in a normal human being. The highest concentration of psychopaths in practically the entire United States is Washington, D.C., and that just came out of a major psychological. The psychopaths are in huge numbers in Washington, D.C., and we can understand why. That's where a lot of power is, and psychopaths gravitate towards grabbing power. Now, a psychopath nor a sociopath are serial killers. You have to understand that. They're just people that lack empathy, and these are conditions. Now, when you get into disorders, these are things we pick up along the way. Post-traumatic stress disorder, antisocial disorder, and a lot of people, I get so mind-boggled. People will go around, I'll have a conversation with them, and they'll say, oh yeah, I'm antisocial, I don't like people. No, that's not antisocial. Antisocial is that kid that ripped the wings off the fly and would watch the fly walk around until he smashed it. He'd be the kid cutting lizards open. He'd be the kid basically graduating into the destruction of smaller animals, cats, dogs, and whatnot. Anyways, that's antisocial disorder. Now mix that with somebody that has no compassion, now we've got a serious problem here. Especially with a sociopath. A sociopath, now, I don't believe that they're associated with a reduced size amygdala. I think it is more under the presumption that they had post-traumatic stress syndrome from traumatic episodes in their life. And it's created longer pathways of communication from the cerebral cortex to key parts of the brain, such as the amygdala, the hippocampus, the parts of the brain that we really need to be able to analyze things with. I believe that when you get post-traumatic stress syndrome, if your brain doesn't protect itself, it becomes a hamster on a wheel and it just keeps replaying, and then it drives into other categories such as schizophrenia, so many different other types of things, bipolar. The post-traumatic stress syndrome, I believe, is at a root of a lot of the other disorders. I think that the post-traumatic stress syndrome is like Little Red Riding Hood going through the woods and running into the wolf. Okay, she runs into the wolf, say she gets away from him that time, she's going to take that same path. No. So that part of that cerebral cortex is blocked. What's she going to do? She's going to take another path, a longer path. She takes a longer path around and she walks and she gets to the point to where she needs to be. And, well, there she is. Anyways, the longer these pathways get, the more clouded minded you become and the less practicality you approach life with. You don't have a practical recourse for what's going on. But let's go back to the Washington, D.C. and the highest concentration of psychopaths. Psychopathy being 3% to 8%. Pick a number, it doesn't matter. We're over 1 million psychopaths in this country, and that's way too many. especially when they infiltrate huge swaths of society. Yeah, that's way too many. What are we looking at? We're going back to the CFR, the Council on Foreign Regime Change. This is the one thing that Tulsi Gabbard isn't talking about. Now, Michael Bloomberg announcing it, he's running for president, and you look behind him, and CFR is all behind him. Council on Foreign Relations, Council on Foreign Regime Change. It doesn't take much to cover that stretch. Council on Foreign Relations. They have been basically guiding foreign relations for the last 100 years, or since whenever it was incepted. And it's resulted in nothing but regime change. And they're a huge think tank. And they think psychopathically to be able to manipulate the American people into doing what they want. If it's anything from the USS Maine to the Gulf of Tonkin to, oh my God, 3 buildings, 2 planes, do the damn math. I can't take it no more. I can't take it. You people out there that still believe that terrorists came in and blew up these buildings. 17 of the 19 hijackers from Saudi Arabia. We continue to protect Saudi Arabia. Why? Probably because they're going to threaten to tell the American people that, yeah, this was an orchestrated event through whatever countries. We can speculate. I mean, we can think back to USS Liberty, where Israel blew it up and killed all them people, and we squashed that. Well, that never happened. Oh my God, the USS Liberty never happened. Bullshit. Listen, when you get psychopaths in charge of your country or in charge of your household, I'm sure people have been in toxic relationships and could not figure out why these were toxic. You're dealing probably with a psychopath, maybe a low-level psychopath. Psychopath, when he starts to lose an argument, he'll just talk in circles until you're tired of talking and you can't argue anymore because your eyes are rolling back into the back of your head and you feel like you're going to pass out because this person isn't accepting any type of common sense or rationale. They will not lose that battle. Anyways, I don't know if anybody is ever going to watch this. I don't care if anybody watches it. I just think a lot of people are on the wrong path. I hope that Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch starts doing FOIA requests on CFR. And I'd like, because they're not expecting that. They're not anticipating that. And remember, this is the old money. This isn't the new money, the Bill Gates and all this other crazy crap. But they still pull strings with Bill Gates and they'll control these people one way or another. They'll make some kind of a deal. They'll have an Epstein in there to get dirt on them for child pedophilia. We've already seen that connection with Gates and Epstein. We've already seen the connection between Epstein and Bill Clinton. We've already seen, and whoever Epstein was, we could speculate that he was working for Mossad. We could speculate. It doesn't matter. He was working for somebody because he was getting away with this shit for a long time. So there had to be some pretty high-powered people protecting him. You think, if I was going to take over America, would it be through the FBI? Or would it be through a think tank that would be able to control the FBI? And who put in charge of the FBI? Come on, Mueller? Look at every FBI director we've had or Department of Justice head we've had. I think Barr's in a tough situation because people don't want to know the truth. They don't want to know that our government may had a hand killing 2,000 of its own people so we could go to war to steal oil. They don't want to know that. They want to live in a safe world. And that's being too empathic. That's being too empathic. That's being scared of your own shadow. Being an empath is just as detrimental to your lifestyle if you're too much of anything. You need a balance. An empath, you will find they break. They're emotional. They're usually drunks. A lot of empaths become drunks, alcoholics. They turn to alcohol because they look at everything that's going on in the world and they have no control over it, and it destroys them from the inside. totally just mind racks them. Anyways, my name's Timothy. It was a pleasure making this video, even though it was really sketchy. It's just me talking, babbling. I'm in my rig. I drive truck. I am a over-the-road truck driver, and I enjoy my job because it keeps me away from a lot of the sensory perception things out there. I don't have to deal with a lot of things that people that have a day job deal with, and I have to deal with traffic. Yeah, these four-wheelers. I'm going to say something. When you're coming on an on-ramp, you do not have the right of way. You are to yield. Always yield. By law, you're supposed to yield coming on into traffic. It is not our obligation as truck drivers to get over a lane. And sometimes we can't, and you can't see the car on the other side. And I've had cars get so irate, call my number in, and say, oh my God, he wouldn't get out of it. Listen, for one, the dispatch is going to act like he's really... Most dispatch are psychopaths. It's funny. They'll sit there, they'll tell them, oh yeah, we got this. And then we never hear about it, but then sometimes we do hear about it. Don't get in front of us and hit the brakes. We're 80,000 pounds. If that's wet pavement, you're dead. What's another thing I can tell you? We have a blind side. There is a blind spot, truly. And if a truck hits its turn signal, we as truck drivers are supposed to take our time doing that. We're not supposed to just bounce in and out like a sports car. You do see some truck drivers out there doing it, and I don't agree with that. But we take our time. You have enough time to get out of our blind spot. And if we see you, we will stop real quick. Don't jerk the wheel and run off a cliff. Just speed up just enough to where you're out of that one blind spot. And it's always on the right side, the passenger side of the truck. We're not doing it intentional. You people that like to ride in the blind spot and just sit there, that's Darwinism. You're going to get what you deserve. I mean, that's just stupid. You're going to cause a lot of people to get hurt. You don't pace a truck when he's on the outside lane. That truck wants to be on the inside lane at all times to stay out of the pathway of other cars, because cars like to go faster. They're more maneuverable than trucks. So we like to stay in the passenger's lane. We don't like to be stuck to the outside. In a lot of states, we're not allowed to be stuck to the outside. Well, anyways, that's just a few things on truck driving. I am done with this video, and this is my first video on YouTube. And I'll bet you know, one person listens to it, and I don't really give a rat's ass because I'm not a narcissist. I am somewhat. We're all, hopefully that we realize, that's another thing, another pet peeve of mine. Narcissists, we're all somewhat, to a portion, narcissistic. It's when you become a malignant narcissist. So these key terms, like a psychopath, antisocial, malignant narcissism. Malignant narcissism is where the people that you just can't know. Oh my God, they'll destroy a party. They'll destroy a social setting quicker than anybody. That's the person that comes in at Thanksgiving and it is going so good, and he shows up or she, and boom, it just blows it up. I believe narcissism is also tied to traumatic events in people's lives. Anyways, talk to you later. I'm out of here.